Let's talk to Andy Mok. He's a senior research fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Andy, why don't we start with your thoughts on this deal between Vietnam and the United States? How do you view it and its impact on China?
Well, thanks for having me, Mike. So I think this deal certainly is touted as a win for the United States. Originally President Trump expected to have a slew of deals by now, and of course some, like Japan, are still being worked out. So I think it sees it as a win. I think for Vietnam, it's in a very delicate position. The United States is an enormous market for Vietnam, but Vietnam also is very reliant on China, especially for intermediate inputs and investment. So I think, as China sees this, it's striking a note of caution here that, again, as we just heard, that all of these trade relationships, disputes, should be handled in a fair way that do not unfairly affect the interest of other parties. So I think we have to see what happens here, and also recognize that while we would have achieved what I would call a truce or a ceasefire between China and the United States regarding trade, we're still not yet at a durable peace. And I think the U.S. actions with Vietnam show that, again, the U.S. still is looking to contain, slow down, stop China's rise.
And the transshipments phase of this, where do you see that hurting China, do you think?
Well, I think on paper it certainly looks like a very challenging obstacle, but then we also have to recognize businesses, investors, both Chinese businesses and American businesses that rely on Chinese products and services as well, are very creative and motivated. So we saw, again, in the first round of tariffs, that many businesses relocated to Vietnam to avoid the China tariffs. And we can see this happening as well. Will goods be transshipped from Vietnam to another port and then to the United States? There's all kinds of ways, I think, administratively, as well as from an actual operational manufacturing perspective, to mitigate the impact of these measures. So, I think we have to see there's certainly a lot of alarm. If you look at market reactions, say, U.S. equity prices for companies like Nike that have significant exposure to Vietnam, this has been viewed as largely positive, and I think that's an indirect reflection on how China is responding to this as well.
Yeah, and I think you had a really good point there about getting creative. It's one of the ingredients everyone seems to need when it comes to trade these days. And the U.S. government did take some steps that appear to be going in the right direction. The Trump administration rescinding this export restrictions on chip design software to China. What do you make of that move?
Well, I think in many circles, this is interpreted as the classic Trump strategy of escalate to de-escalate. And I think this is true. But I think the larger picture here is that the Trump administration went into this with a lot of confidence and maybe even hubris that because it is such a large customer of Chinese products, that it had more leverage. And I remember Secretary Bessent saying something to that effect as well. And I think what reality has shown is that China really cannot be bullied, and to pardon the pun, I think holds many of the trump cards, whether we're talking about rare earth metals, whether we're talking about Boeing aircraft, and even agricultural exports from the United States to China, which has not gotten a lot of Western media coverage, but has certainly been very negatively impacted by all this. And we have to remember that farmers in the United States are still a very important domestic political constituency. So I think what we're seeing here, even though this is true, there is an escalate to de-escalate tactic used by the Trump administration, that they've also recognized the larger reality that they really need to work with China increasingly as an equal, and even in some areas as someone that they really are dependent on, again, whether that's for rare earth metals, whether that's for market access for Boeing aircraft, et cetera. And my hope is that, again, we're here at a truce, a ceasefire, which is not yet a durable peace, that as the U.S. increasingly comes to this recognition that it really does need to treat China truly as an equal, that a more durable, stable, and mutually beneficial relationship can grow from all this.
Another aspect of the ceasefire, you keep referring to it as ethane producers also going to benefit. Reuters have reported that 257,000 barrels were being sent daily to China. That was in May. So having it stop, this is a significant development as well.
It absolutely is, Mike. So, and again, here, I think, there's a lot of attention paid in the Western media to, the pressure, the challenges this is causing Chinese businesses. But we have to look at, so ethane, you mentioned very impressive numbers. Look at EDA, electronic design automation software for semiconductors. So Synopsys, Cadence, Siemens are three leading companies in the space, American companies that derive 16% of their revenue from China, and chip companies as well. Jensen Huang has said, well, they've not said, they've taken, I believe, a $5 billion charge because of disruptions to the access to the China market caused by Trump policies. So clearly, there are, I think, significant economic repercussions, direct costs from this that are, I think, increasingly recognized by the Trump administration. One quick point I want to make here, Mike, too, that I think is very important is that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And in 2025, Washington is flattering Beijing in that when we look at a lot of what the Trump administration is doing, it really is mirroring China's approach of centralized planning, reducing administrative bureaucratic friction through different levels of government. And I think China has been the proof of concept to show that you can not only engineer incredible social change, lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, but achieve technological leadership in areas like electric vehicles, space exploration, telecommunications equipment with Huawei. And I think Washington cannot admit this publicly, but a lot of the initiatives we see undertaken by the Trump administration really are mirror images of what China has done to achieve, again, social progress, economic advances, and technological leadership.
Andy, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us from Beijing.